Okay, folks, we are live. I'll call the meeting to order and I'll look for roll call from my clerks, please.
Thank you, Warden, and good morning, members. We have all members of council in attendance with a couple of exceptions. We have regrets from Councillor Sandu and regrets from Councillor Michael Smith with alternate Councillor Sonder in attendance, and you have your quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have to leave early today? I'm not even sure how long this meeting is going to be. Councillor Locks.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get out of here by 11 if possible.
Having any others? Not seeing any hands at this time. So I'll look for an approval of the agenda. Councillor Dolan, please.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by the Deputy Warden that the agenda for the November 4th, 2025 proposed municipal boundary adjustment special council meeting be approved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions on the agenda? Not seeing any. All in favor? That is carried. Do I have a disclosure of pecuniary interest by any member of council? I'm not seeing any at this time. So if you find yourself in that situation later, please declare it at that time. I have the consent agenda. So I've got a motion that the following consent item having been given due consideration be received. Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Fryer. Questions on the consent? Not seeing any. The only thing I had, I think that's one where they're saying 100 million to service the lands on Forbes Road. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the numbers were 300 million. Rob, do you recall? Because I know we sat in that with RV Anderson, and I know there was a bit of dispute between them and Ainley, but I thought the servicing of that corridor was closer to $300 million.
Yes, thank you, through your worship. I believe that the number I had originally seen was 300 million. I haven't had the privilege of time to review any updated reports in that regard.
Okay, all right. So we'll just take it at face value for what it is. So if there's no other comments, all in favor of receiving, that is carried. Thank you. And next I have, and I'm not even going to read the motion at this time because I think we need to have a discussion on this item. And so on item 5.1, which is the City of Barrie proposed municipal boundary adjustment, Rob, I'm going to let you start us off and then I have a few comments of my own.
Thank you, your worship. If you'd indulge me, I've got a couple of minutes just to set the stage and remind council of the issues that we've shared with you in past, and just to make sure that our public is aware of the staff position here on the proposed annexations. So the county was asked by the province to have council make a decision on the annexation proposals to Springwater and to Oro-Medonte. We're here today as we've been asked to make a decision prior to consideration at the local municipalities. The county is not a signatory to either agreement, but this does impact county services, future land use planning, economic development, finances, and strategic goals of the County of Simcoe. Staff is not opposed to the annexation of some lands for community, which is residential and associated uses identified, as we accept the findings that Barrie has been building at lower densities than had been planned for, and we are not seeking financial compensation in return. Staff does have significant concerns with the loss of strategic lands for employment purposes when it is not justified and will result in major consequences to the county. As outlined in our report, a summary of the specific concerns related to the annexation of over 300 hectares of lands for employment in the Highway 400 and Highway 11 area include that these lands were outside of the agreed upon study area. The County of Simcoe currently has a shortage of employment lands as identified in the County Official Plan Amendment number 7. Barrie's employment land needs could only be supported by extending the scope of the study. The province is assessing allocating additional growth to South Simcoe, which may lead to no planning justification for additional employment growth in the northern part of Simcoe should 300 hectares be allocated to the city at this time. This magnitude of land annexation for employment will undermine economic development, new investment, and job creation opportunities in the county. This will result in an estimated $2 million annual loss in future tax revenue for the county alone, having implications for county programs and services with immediate loss of over $200,000 in annual tax collections today, with significant loss of development charge revenue. In short, taxes will increase. As a separated city, Barrie will receive the benefit of significant tax generation, whereas the county is the delivery agent for many regional services that will not benefit from this tax collection. Existing employment activity rates are low in Springwater and Oro-Medonte at 33%, whereas Barrie's activity rate is strong at 50%. There is great uncertainty resulting from the lower Ministry of Finance growth numbers and the South Simcoe growth review that resulting in allocating 300 hectares of employment land to the city of Barrie will result in a limited future employment opportunities for the rest of Simcoe County for decades to come. The province has not made a decision on COPA 7, which is the county's growth management official plan amendment, for over 3 years, which is perplexing as to why this is now a priority. The county attempted to make arrangements with the city to bring 40 acres of land that is county owned within the city of Barrie to the market, but the city hasn't pursued this offer, which could have assisted with the identified need for shovel-ready employment lands. The county asked for an extension to the September 30th deadline in order to conduct more analysis. Despite this not being granted to the county, Dillon Consulting was engaged and produced a report, which is attached to our report today. They raised many concerns, and specifically, within the Northern Regional Market Area, the proposed major new employment area in Barrie is of most concern, as it would create an intervening opportunity that will undermine the growth potential of the Northern Regional Market Area over time. This outcome would not be in the best long-term economic interests of either the county or many Northern RMA communities. Land needs in Barrie. It is our view that the LNA, the Land Needs Assessment, results are questionable. Barrie has fallen short of its planned residential growth and density targets for reasons that are not entirely clear. The question of whether it is even possible to catch up is not addressed. The airport as a regional economic catalyst. The Lake Simcoe Regional Airport is a priority for economic development because of its unique potential to act as a catalyst for economic development. The proposed Barrie employment area would frustrate this opportunity by reducing the effectiveness of past and planned county investments. More importantly, the benefits or return on the county investments would flow to Barrie. As it is a separated city within the Simcoe RMA, which is less than ideal from a fiscal perspective for the county. The regional urban structure. The province is currently developing a strategy for South Simcoe, including options for accelerated growth. Continuing a long-standing provincial interest in South Simcoe, especially along the Highway 400 corridor south of Barrie. Allocating more growth to South Simcoe, as well as to Barrie, will materially limit economic opportunity in the remaining areas of the county. A regionally significant new employment area in the Northern RMA should be considered to balance these impacts and maximize Simcoe's economic potential. Financial and economic impacts. The proposed expansion would translate into significant future lost tax revenue opportunities for the county. The net effect would be negative in that it would reduce the funds available to finance county growth initiatives and potentially undermine the economic development efforts of other local municipalities. At most risk are the planned county initiatives around the airport, which are less effective if the decision is to allocate significant additional growth to both Barrie and South Simcoe. So in summary, the annexation of significant and strategically located lands to the city of Barrie is not a decision with a regional lens. This guarantees certainty for Barrie while leaving the county at risk in the face of much uncertainty. The consequence will be reduced levels of service across the county or an increase in property taxes to pay for these services. For the same reasons that Barrie wants these lands, the county cannot agree to give away the future. A truly regional solution needs to be properly examined, and given the lack of any pressing need, there is time to do this properly. Agreeing to the annexation of over 400 hectares for community purposes, which is residential development and the associated uses, without compensation by the county is beyond fair, and it demonstrates the willingness to support the new housing demands and the provincial goals around that. Yesterday at around 3 o'clock, we received a final report from Hempson, which identified some errors in their methodology, which now suggested that the employment land needs for Barrie are within the 2051 horizon and not the 2061 horizon, as we've all been working under that assumption. We find it rather unsettling that a jointly land needs analysis and study findings report, which is paid for by the city of Barrie, comes to the county the afternoon prior to a decision being made on this issue. This does not appear to be a joint study when we weren't aware of the new findings. County hasn't had input into this revised report, or in fact, throughout the process, the county interests really have not been addressed. All the more reason, given the timeliness of this, for a pause on any decision around the employment lands annexation. We need a peer review of this work, and there needs to be a true regional solution that looks at a win-win for all. At this point, the staff position would remain unchanged, as the impact to the county, even with this final work from Hempson, remains unclear. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Now, I was looking at the options, and I'm just gonna, I don't want any of the options on the floor yet. I want to have a hearty debate on this. I'm just curious in option 3, where you mentioned it's understood the county staff that the lands along Bayfield Street, which are known as Saddle and Remington lands, will remain in Springwater and will be provided water and wastewater services from within Springwater. Can you let me know why that would need to be in the motion? Because we've traditionally said we're not wading into the cross-border servicing because we're not in the servicing market. So I'm wondering why we would include that sentence in this motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Because these lands were actually included in discussions and proposals that we've seen back and forth, we felt it important that they not be excluded entirely from the discussion, because they are relevant in terms of responding to the growth demands in the regional area. We felt, though, that if there is a servicing solution to be had within Springwater, that would be the right way to pursue that. So we felt making a comment was important, because in the plan that we've put forward as a recommendation, we did not include those lands.
All right. Oh, all right. Comments? Because I understand that, but if we're not wading into the sewer and water, I would just as soon stay out of the issue altogether, and we just deal with what does interfere and what we find offensive, which is the industrial land, especially in the one corridor. But listen, I will open it up to the floor for any discussions or questions. The Hempson report, when can we have that out to council? I mean, they kind of want us to make a decision today, but we haven't got the final report from Hempson yet. I haven't seen it.
The final report, I'm not exactly sure when it came into the county, but in terms of the distribution to staff, it was about 3 o'clock yesterday. We could circulate that. Like I say, it raises some questions. But again, it doesn't answer the question about the impact on the county. It proposes that there was an error in their methodology and that the employment land needs is sooner than we had been working under the presumption with. But at the end of the day, it does not address all of these concerns we've raised on the long-term impacts for the county.
Well, it's not about having the report. I'm going to want your comments on the report once it's in front of us, because that's kind of how we operate. We get a report and then we have staff suggestions based on that report, which anyway, that hopefully we can get it shortly. I'll open it to the floor. Everybody's in the same boat I am, wondering how, what's the next steps? Well, I guess the next step is we can either vote on it today or take the information that we've learned, Councillor Burkett learned, and then mull it over.
Thank you to you, Your Worship. Has Oromadante and Springwater made a decision yet?
No. I believe Oromadonte's coming to council tonight. Randy, am I correct on that, Councillor Greenlaw?
Correct.
And
Correct, Your
Springwater
Worship.
Tomorrow morning? Tomorrow morning. So we're the first ones.
My apologies, tomorrow evening.
Oh, tomorrow evening. Okay, thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. Being that we have all this information given at a very late date, I just don't understand how that we are expected from whatever level of government for us to make a decision when we just got things in front of us. We're hearing that both parties, Oromadante and Springwater, have not made a decision. I find that it's premature to make a decision with what we have. I think that if we can come back and at least absorb some of it, and if we have open discussions, and maybe we'll be able to make a better thing on, but I would rather have a deferral. That's my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Councillor Cox.
Thank you very much. I feel the same way. I think that
the decisions that need to be made by the municipalities. And if there's anything that the municipalities need our support on, which may come after, we can help them with a motion if they need one from us. I believe that this has been pushed as we've all talked about it. I also believe that a lot of the negotiating or what we see in the paper, which is what I have to go on, and a couple of reports here, is that there seems to be a lot of, this is the way it is, and this is what you pick, and this is what you do. So I would prefer to defer it until November 10th. Thank you very much.
So the one thing I will say, and it just came to me here, General Manager Elliott had mentioned that we're not asking for monetary compensation, and we're not including the transfer of the roads. We weren't asking for it. We did have requests into the province of Ontario with this process. We were looking for, and if you want to explain the MZOs maybe better than I can, we were looking for an MZO in the Craighurst area on the 400 and Forbes Road so that we could create that northern employment zone that we're lacking today. However, we've been told that that is a separate process outside of these deliberations. Can you correct me on that, Rob? Am I correct? And we had a few others. We're looking for some work done around the airport from MTO on the airport exchange, because we know that's going to be a problem as we expand the airport. And we even were looking for an MZO to create more employment lands around the airport. But we were told we could have indirectly, no, you can't have 3 MZOs, pick 2. So our priority is the 400 corridor, which is Forbes Road and Craighurst, to create that employment zone that we're so lacking here in the north area of the county. Rob?
Thank you, Your Worship. You're correct. We've had those discussions, and such requests have been made from the province to the county. That poses some challenges about whether we as an upper tier municipality have the ability to apply for MZOs, which is minister's zoning order. And we would want to support that with some planning rationale and justification. But again, to look at this from a regional perspective is important. By giving 300 hectares to the city of Barrie now, it really undermines those efforts. And coming up with a land supply that might be 150 years with a land supply, that's not the way that you plan communities. There's lots of challenges that come with that. So we think that the best decision would be to not make a decision on employment lands right now, truly look at this from a regional perspective. Things like the airport, we've been in discussions with MTO for several years now. Improvements to interchanges should be done outside of this process anyways. It's odd to see them connected to this.
Okay, and Councillor Smith online, I saw your hand up.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and through you, just a few questions, if I may. The first question is why, and we may have heard this before, but I do not recall, why did the county, or is the county, at least at this point, not asking for compensation on residential lands? That's my first question.
Rob?
Through the chair, we realized that this was the will of the province to give something to Barrie. We appreciate that Barrie's developed at lower densities than planned for. Really, any compensation, and as a result of shared services agreements and whatnot, the impact on residential is less than the employment piece. We thought this demonstrated very much a goodwill gesture on behalf of the county to step up and help the province deliver on housing goals.
Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess what's important for me to understand is, do staff believe that regardless of what we decide here, do you believe that the province is going to push this forward and make it happen anyway? Because I think that's very important for us to all understand. Are we all sitting here and debating for naught, or do we truly believe that there is a solution here that is more regionally friendly, if you will?
Well, what's come to me, and maybe I'll turn, well, Rob, you go, and then I have some comments.
Thank you, through your worship. We believe the facilitation process has come to an end, and we do understand that the facilitator will be making a recommendation to Minister Flack to include all of the lands in the annexation proposals. We are suggesting that there's an opportunity to work directly with the minister for him to realize that isn't the decision that should be made without truly a balanced and regional view on this. So we think there is an opportunity then to work directly with the minister to come to an outcome that is more regionally balanced.
That's what I was hoping. What I've heard in conversations is the time for negotiating is over, and the minister will make a decision based on the recommendation from the facilitators. So that's what's come to me on the political side. So, I mean, we're hoping there'll still be a negotiation, but what I was told is they will base the decision on the recommendation from the facilitators. I'll just let's see if, is that it? Councillor Smith?
No, just 1.5 more things, Your Worship, if you'll indulge me. So I asked that question because that's what I understood in our last meeting from you, Your Worship, was that, this was basically a done deal. There was no more room to go back, with the exception of the one meeting that we attended, and the result of that we heard last week. So that's why I asked that question. And then my last point is the airport lands. Are we going to need the province on this to make any significant things happen at the airport, or are we good as it sits to make it happen?
General Manager?
That's a really tough question. We would always appreciate support from upper levels of government in growing the airport. The province of Ontario has chosen to not be in that game, and it's left municipalities struggling to support airport growth and development. So we're looking at all options. We'll continue to ask for those supports. But it's disappointing to know that the province doesn't see airport development as a growth area when you understand the true economic impact and value that an airport brings to communities and the province, not just our ratepayers.
I think one positive light is they are the biggest user of the airport right now. So, I mean, they see the value for themselves between Air Orange, the OPP, and help me out, Rob, what was that? Yeah. Oh, not M&R. What's the other one that's there? Hydro, yes, Hydro. They are the largest user, so I think at least they see the value in that. Whether they'll come to play as we try and expand it beyond that, we're hopeful. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Warden. Just on the lines of Councillor Smith. So if it was I don't know if it was a negative or not. We weren't there at this meeting, but if it was in the negative tone, that they're going to make that decision, are we jeopardizing getting anything? Because that was my concern. Is if it's all slanted and they're saying you're going to make a decision and it wasn't a friendly back and forth, even though our intent was for that to happen. Are we jeopardizing getting nothing from there and it be pushed through? That would be my concern.
Again, we're into the political world now. What I can say, and this came from Minister Saunderson yesterday, there are no threats being made on behalf of the province. They're hoping that we can all work together and come to a solution, but he wanted to make sure everybody knew that. You know, they would like us on side. They would like our support and work with us going forward. They recognize the many great partnerships that we have with the province. So they said they're not threatening anything. I don't know where it lands financially if you don't sign the agreement. That I'm unaware of, but they're certainly not threatening to pull away any services or give us a cold shoulder if we don't support this. But as you say, politically, it's always better if we can sit side by side and work with the province, right? So it's a very political answer, but I don't know what else I can give you. Councillor Hamlin, and then.
Excuse me. Thank you, Warden. I do agree for the reasons given that it would be better to defer our discussion on the options until the municipalities who are involved have a chance to consider this. And also, I would like the opportunity to read all the material that's come in. And secondly, I wish there were, let me put it this way. Is there a way before we discuss this for you to consider doing the political approach to the minister's office and find out where the tea leaves are? Because tea leaves are very important in this process. The politics of it have been driving this at the provincial level. And before we beat our head against the wall too much, it would be good to know if this is a fait accompli anyway. That would be useful for my thinking. I'll also say I see this, and I can't confess, I've talked to anyone. I'll just say what I see, which is the growth that the province might be looking at is now that 905, 416 is full, 905 is full. What's next? So Simcoe. There's a logical expansion here, I'll just say. And of course, as you mentioned earlier, there's going to be discussions ongoing about how that will happen. The other key point is that Barrie is the big city that is just north of South Simcoe, and the province has made a lot of major investments there, ones that I know we had hoped we would see over on our side of the county, but we haven't. Barrie's gotten them. And also what's always important is the 400 corridor, and that's going to be given a real leg up by this proposal. So I just come back to, it would be good to know where the tea leaves are, and if I can help, I have a few ideas in that way, but I'll just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I can with confidence say what Minister Flack told me is that no, nobody has been calling him on this file. Nobody has been pressuring him on this file. He is relying heavily on what the facilitators bring forward. And so that's the answer I've gotten so far. So it's what the facilitators recommend is what he will be relying heavily on as he makes this decision. Councillor Lavoie, and welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much. Feeling all the better for it. I just wanted to thank everyone for their participation in this and their understanding that it's important that I think the opportunity be given to council members here to be able to contemplate the materials that have come in very late to this process. And thank you for staff for presenting in a very succinct manner, excuse me, the matter before us. I do want to highlight that since January 2023, when we were first approached by Barrie, the interest was solely in industrial lands. And I also want to point out that the industrial lands that are most shovel-ready at the hand of Barrie are in Oro-Medonte, south of line 5-6, headed down to Shanty Bay. They're 66 feet away from Barrie's intent to convert lands to industrial. There are no guarantees in the proposal that Oro-Medonte has from Barrie that they won't switch the zoning once they acquire the lands. And that is the chief concern of Oro-Medonte. At this point, certainly I think there's some belief and reason to believe in accordance with what staff here has said, that Barrie can grow from a community lands perspective. But we do not, under any circumstance, as a township, want to see the lands in that area across from residential zones and a very proximate to environmentally sensitive lands be turned into industrial lands. And we would appreciate this House's deferral in order that we can deliberate this later on today and then come back and ask you for your support to find those reinforcements and representations that we make from here to the province in order to ensure they remain community lands. So thank you very much.
So I'm hearing a theme of deferral, but I'd still like to have, before anybody puts that motion on the floor, I'd still like to have more discussion and debate and try and get as many questions answered today as we can prior to the rest of the information being given to council. Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Warden. And I hate to play devil's advocate here, but a deferral here today, and I'm not suggesting one way or the other, doesn't preclude a deferral at Oro-Medonte tomorrow and another deferral at Springwater Township Council meeting on Wednesday. We've received this last technical data at the same time, and we also have other reports that have come in very recently that, quite voluminous, I might add, that have to be digested by council members before they meet on Wednesday night at 6:30. And I also point out that Springwater Township has already deferred this decision once. So I'm just wondering if there's a mechanism by which maybe the warden may be able to fulfill some parts of this particular resolution without a decision being made today on actually deciding yes or no, but maybe an opportunity to reach out to the minister directly on behalf of the county. So I just wanted to put that out there that if we're going to continue to kick the ball or the can down the road, I don't know what's going to happen. At some point in time, something's got to happen, something's got to give, whether councils all make a decision or the province decides that they're going to make a decision for us. So I just want to leave it at that. I'm not trying to sway anybody's vote one way or the other, but I do want to just point that out that I don't have a crystal ball as to what's going to happen tomorrow or on Wednesday, and we might find ourselves in the same position come next Tuesday again, that's all.
This is when, you know what they say, the chicken and the egg. I mean, there's been several times that the facilitators has asked county to put a map forward. We're reluctant to do so because we don't want to put a map forward that offends either of the local councils. I mean, it's their boundary, you know, as well as ours, but it really is the local boundary. So it's always put us in a very, like, there is a map in the agenda that you saw that we did put forward at one time. We tried to keep the map as small as possible as not to offend any of the local councils when we did so by offering up more land than say what the local council was willing to offer up. So it's a very tough situation when you're asked to put input in, when really I think the process should have been the facilitated process, and then we should have been sitting down with the province as the upper tier when the decision was being made. I think would have been a better way to proceed with this. You take the facilitator's advice and then we sit down with the minister and then try and negotiate what's best for the region. I think would have been the better way for this to go, but that's not how it played out. And whether there's an opportunity, I'm hearing no, that we are in the facilitation process. That's where we have our input. After which it's the facilitator's recommendation that will be landing on the minister's desk and not necessarily ours. Now, nothing precludes us as an upper tier from writing a letter to the minister, certainly, but that's not the impression that I've been told how it's going to play out. So I don't know if that answers your question, Councillor, or not. General Manager, I saw you looking over at me. Did you have a comment or?
Not directly, but I guess through your worship, the only comment I would have to say is that even as a deferral, I can't envision a world where a staff position is going to change in a week's time. Even despite new information from Hempson pointing out errors in their methodology, going back and actually reviewing this and understanding that, but putting the lens on what is the long-term regional implication, that remains unanswered. With COPA 7 sitting in abeyance for 3.5 years and all of this work going on in Simcoe, the real risk is that there will be no employment land left to allocate, particularly to the Northern Regional Market Area, which means no new jobs, no economic development. Why bother with the airport? All of these questions remain unanswered. We will not have answers to that in a week's time. We've been asking these same questions for months now, and it just has not come to the surface in the decision-making process. And that's why it would be very frustrating for this council to be put in a position to be suggesting that you have to make a decision that you couldn't possibly agree to. And if you don't, there's negative consequences. I hope to goodness that's not the case.
You see the situation we're in, and yeah, everything we've sent to the facilitators seem to have been ignored. I'll come out and say it, including our concerns with the MZOs that we're told it's outside of this process. Well, okay, if you've already met the employment for the area, then it makes it very difficult to pursue an MZO after the fact. So something I've been thinking, and you know, I've looked at our last official plan took 9 years for the province to approve. COPA 7's been in front of them 3.5 years. So, you know, I mean, if you split the original one in half, we still got another 1.5 years to wait before we're going to see COPA 7, which is our official plan, passed. And that's what's concerning to us. I'm more of the mind, if this is going to happen, that's fine. We can endorse it if we're granted the MZOs first. So we want our MZO on Craighurst and we want our MZO on Forest prior to agreeing to this agreement. And in that way, we get the employment lands that we need desperately. And we're not ruled out by giving them to some other area. We get what we need. We get our COPA 7 put behind us. And then, you know, maybe then we can endorse what's happened. So give it some thought. Because I'm hearing a deferral, that's something that I've been kind of mulling over. At least then we know we're getting something out of the deal and it's guaranteed. Councillor Dolan, and I think it was Councillor Greenlaw, then Councillor Burkett. Oh, lots of them. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I've been having a whole lot of deja vu moments over the last year. The first thing I want to say is I applaud the county for being a partner in this. In 2009, that wasn't the case. Innisfil was pretty much on their own. We did, each member of council, and I was a councillor at the time, go to each local municipality to plead our case, to get support from the local municipalities. But in the end, it was a local, it was Innisfil versus Barrie. We did some things that that didn't help. One of them is, I think I told this house before, we made it personal. We took out personal attack ads on the local MPP that put forward the motion for Barrie. We jumped in buses and went down to Queen's Park. Lots of things that I found out after the fact didn't help our case. But what we really did that was wrong, I think, was we and I wasn't on the negotiating team, but my understanding is we picked up our marbles and left and said, we're not playing anymore. And then it happened to us. And there was a lot of employment land there given to the city of Barrie along the 400. So at that time, Innisfil got two things for that land. We got the ability to service the land with we have our own LDC in Power, so the service area for InPower didn't change. So we had the opportunity to still service that land with our LDC, and in turn then, get dividends for the shareholder. That would be something in perpetuity that we could count on for future councils in Innisfil. And then the second thing we got was we became a special employment area. And at the very same time, Rama and the airport and Bradford all got the same designation. Those 4 designations came in, and I believe it was actually through the Barrie-Innisfil Act that those designations came to be. So I, having not had the opportunity to be in any of the NDA discussions, feeling a little bit like making a decision with one hand tied behind my back. And now that we're getting an oops report at the 11th hour saying, oh, our numbers were wrong, is really not helpful at all. It really makes me feel like the reports are a means to the end. This is what Barrie wants. Therefore, we're going to manipulate the numbers to make it, to give them what they want. So I have a great deal of respect for the decision-making process at the local level. Yes, this is an important decision for the county, but it's more important for the local municipalities to feel like they've gotten a good deal. So I'm happy to go third in the process of decision-making. I do feel strongly that the airport lands and the employment lands on the 400 should remain with the county. Barrie made it very clear when they pulled out their last, whatever it was, 5% ownership or whatever it was, and they walked away from the airport. They made it very clear they were not interested in that airport. So you can't say, I'm not interested in the airport, oh, but I want to reap the rewards from the airport, which is the employment land that will inevitably find its way around the airport. So, so I guess I can support the deferral and allow the local municipalities to guide their own future and support them with the caveat of the airport lands that I feel are important to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I've got Councillor Greenlaw, Burkett, and Miskimins, and Bell. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question if maybe Chair Elliott could bring some clarity for this council to understand that the $5 million offered to the county doesn't come without strings attached. And can you explain how they are partially in control of how that money is spent through economic development, please?
Would you like the chair, Rob, or is General Manager Vine?
I want nothing to do with the chair role.
All in fun, Randy.
You're right, and through the chair, you rightfully point out that there was later in this process an offer made to the county where the city of Barrie would contribute up to $5 million for a mutually agreed upon economic development initiative of some sort. We feel, though, that that really pales in comparison to the lost opportunity of maintaining the strategically important, significant lands that are in question here. And it does seem to have some very questionable strings attached to it. I don't know what that means when it has to be of mutual benefit and agreed upon by. I would think that there's either a deal or not a deal without strings attached. So I would caution council about that.
Thank you very much, General Manager Elliott.
Councillor Burkett.
Thank you, through your worship. So we've got some more information. You just spoke about the MZOs at Craighurst, and I may have missed it, but how does that now, that's more information that I didn't know about. Having read what came to us last night, I'm still struggling with that. But I don't want an explanation now, but I'd like to defer this, and I'd like to know more about the MZOs that we're looking for in Craighurst if we're going to make a deal and go down this path and accept what the felicitator is offering.
I believe it was in the report. The request that we made was in your report, and again, I pardon if everybody missed it. It was presented to council when we discussed this issue before what our asks were. And if you can recap, it was the MZO on the Forbes Road, MZO in Craighurst to create the employment zone, the intersection around Highway 11 and the 7th concession for the airport, and also the expansion of the employment lands around the airport. They were our asks. That has been presented to council. I apologize if you missed it. And these are awful lengthy reports that we've been sending to council, so I understand if you've missed some of them. Rob, do you want to answer that? And then I got a bunch of hands here, yes.
Thank you, through the chair. Through the process, it was made clear from the province that the county is not going to be party to these agreements and that we wouldn't really get direct compensation as was being considered in the agreements with the local municipalities on a per acreage basis or whatnot, despite the fact there's recognition that handing over assets and lost tax revenue and things like that comes at a cost. So the intimation from the province was, we'll work with us and we'll see what we can do. So provide a bit of a wish list here. So we did just that. We talked about infrastructure improvements at and around the airport. We talked about making us whole on our employment land issues. We've talked about employment lands at Forbes. There's some potential lands in Craighurst and some potential lands around the airport. The challenge we do have, though, is that, really the only commitment we've got is we would deal with that outside of this process. So I'm not sure how that all works, to be quite honest with you. Again, back to my earlier comments, if 300 hectares of employment lands go to Barrie, I'm not exactly sure what the rationale or justification is outside of looking at this through a new regional perspective. So it's something we understand. We've been asked to provide our wish list. We did just that, but there's a million questions around how that would actually come to fruition and whether it even would.
Do you have a follow-up? All right, I'll go down my list, but I did see Councillor Cox's hand go up as well, so I'll go to Councillor Miskimins.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. We need to reframe the situation that we're dealing with. First off, I think we need to take the emotions out of the annexation. I feel like we're allowing our personality differences muddy the water on what's happening here. Like or hate the players, we have an annexation that's going to happen, whether we vote in favor of this or not. The province has said this is happening, and we are the children of the province, thumbing our nose at the province isn't going to get us anywhere. I believe we have a fiduciary obligation to get the best deal that we can for the residents of Simcoe County. When I attended the meeting and we spoke about this last Tuesday, I was pretty brutal on the process and the people involved. But at the end of the day, it was my own emotions that I needed to separate myself from and look at just the facts of the situation. This will happen by deal or by legislation, and the province has told us that. What we have negotiated so far is precedent setting. Normally, the process that's followed for any annexations is basically the framework of the last deal. What has been negotiated here doubles the amount per acre, and that's a huge win. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars here. Second, for our agricultural community, they have a 20-year phase-in period that's once absorbed into Barrie for their taxes. Normally, it's 5 years. I think that's a win. This is for generational farmers. The county itself is not in the business of water and wastewater, and we know based on what developers developers have said, we are reliant on getting servicing to these lands in order to achieve the growth in housing developments. We're not in control of the situation as we don't have infrastructure to take this on ourselves. The province has been quite clear in its mandate of building homes and jobs. One proposal indicates that there will be over 7,000 units built in Springwater after the annexation. That's tax revenue to the county. In addition, there will also be a hospice care, high school, commercial buildings that support a growing community and bring local jobs to the economy. Telling the province that we don't want building here is not going to get us help in any way, shape, or form. We've seen amazing investments by the province in our county, and I, for one, don't want to see it go away. If we come across as unsupportive or difficult to do business with, then another county or region stands to benefit. And let's remember, this is a business deal, and we aren't holding any cards as the county does not own the land, the townships do. We have an opportunity to ask for these MZOs that will go through the new concierge level service to have them fast tracked that will help our own economic development to the area. I say we ask for these sooner rather than later and get the ball rolling on this. This is all within our control to do. We need to take this opportunity quickly while we have the province's attention. And let's remember what's in our control to do. The annexation is happening. The deal's been negotiated. It's a good deal for our townships and ratepayers. The deal is precedent setting, meaning future deals in other parts of Ontario will follow what we've negotiated. And let's celebrate this. If we vote this down, the deal dries up. And what have we done for our residents? Our fiduciary duty is to get the best possible outcome for our residents. And I think we've done this quite remarkably, given we hold no leverage in this deal. We should be proud of what has been accomplished here and what the benefits will be to our residents for decades to come and well after our own time on this earth is finished. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Bell.
I actually don't feel that we need to defer this. I'm in support of the staff recommendation to move forward with option 3. I'm here today to make a decision based on what's best for the county. And I have heard both sides from what they've shared with me from the municipalities involved. I personally think we're ready to move forward. There's no deal on the table for us right now. I think we've given more than our fair share to be good Samaritans to help them grow and say that we don't want anything back for the residential pieces. I think they need to come to the table and give us something back. And I think we need to hold strong. Yes, I agree. We have to be delicate. We have to see how we approach the province as political and as staff in a respectful way. But I think we need to put up a bit of a fight or else we're just going to get rolled over on.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So reading through the staff report, there are 4 options. 1, support it. 2, don't support it. 3, support it to subject to conditions. And 4, do nothing. And the concern I have is I've heard twice so far today that the facilitation process has ended and the county, in theory, is not happy with the outcome of that. So I have to ask staff, why is the recommendation to support a boundary adjustment on conditions rather than not to support it at all? Because it sounds to me, as much as we would like to be a party that's productive and progressive for our municipalities, the 2 municipalities have yet to vote, and they may be happy with the outcome of the negotiations and the facilitation. But I've heard countless times that the county has not been happy with the process. So I'm asking for some explanation as to why there's a support recommendation on the agenda and not a one that does not support the recommendation.
General Manager.
I think the position we've brought forward in option 3 is a supportive option. It's allowing for the annexation of over 400 hectares of land, seeking nothing in return. I think that's an incredible coming to the table as a partner. The urgency around the employments is something we've spoken about at length. The risk is significant, and we think it's prudent to say that doesn't need to be dealt with right now. The option to reject that is available, and it's written into the report. And again, I don't know that deferring this really will result in a different opinion. We were asked to come first. We originally were thinking of November 10th for the meeting, but we're asked for today as the date. So that's hence the timing around this particular issue. So council could decide to allow the annexations to proceed as proposed. You could flat out refuse them, or as staff are rejecting, we could accept annexation on a refined scope, which is really what our plan and the map that we included in it. I want to be clear, it's not really a map the county came up with. We tried to compile what was part of the discussions, taking out lands that we knew were subject to servicing discussions at the local municipality and the significant employment lands that were of concern. So we don't really see this as a county map. It's just a compilation of what was already on the table. So again, I guess to reiterate, we see option 3 as supporting an annexation that's a win. It accommodates the housing needs. It addresses the density issues that have been identified in Barrie, but we need to work hand in hand in a longer term perspective on unemployment, and that just hasn't happened.
Follow up, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And so the suggestion I would have then is, it sounds to me like there's again, it's a twofold question. The county staff are supportive of a boundary adjustment. There are concerns with the process and what we're getting out of this. So my suggestion would be to split the recommendation, that we have a clear vote as to supporting the recommendation, because the facilitation process, as I've heard twice already today, is done. It's finished. There's no going back to the table. So does the county support it? I've heard staff say, yes, we support the facilitation process and the boundary adjustment. So that's vote 1. I think what's getting convoluted here is the things we aren't happy with that were discussed. And if we are taking those directly to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, then I think we have a secondary motion to simply state that the warden write a letter or engage in conversation with the minister on points A through B and C and D on what the county is asking for. And that's a twofold question. I believe that's the way we should process that. And I'll look to the clerk for some advice at the time of vote. But I think that would be the way forward. If this is the question, we vote on a recommendation today to support or not support, and then the concerns that the county have following that to the minister. Because again, from what I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, the facilitation process, we're not going back to facilitator with these concerns. We're going to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Thank you, Your Worship.
I agree that's where they're at. Anytime we go to the facilitator, I don't think anything's going to change at this point. So it's what whether, again, you said it best, we're in favor or we're not, or we get our concerns in front of the minister, but the facilitation process needs to end. It hasn't been a facilitation, it's been a dictatorship from day one. Councillor Cox.
Yep, through the chair. I agree with what Councillor Dolan had spoken to. And now after hearing council listening, the wind issues that you spoke of is why the township should vote first. And then if we can support any motions or support the townships that the townships require. We know that Oral Madani has a concern. We know that maybe there's something we could do. We don't know what these councils are going to say. Yes, we support this, but we would like this. And us being an upper tier municipality, if we wait a week, we may be able to add support to their motions in order to help them with any negotiating they're having. I personally don't think it makes a difference which one, but if there's any chance that this house could support a municipality that is in the middle of this and they need some higher support, or if we're talking about going to see FLAC, maybe there's something we can go to with them. That is my reason for why I think it should be deferred. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald, I have quite a list. I have McDonald, Snell, Leduc, Measures, Greenlaw, and Fowler. And Norcross. And the deputy warden. All right. Okay, go ahead, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Warden. Most of my questions been asked by the last colleagues that spoke, but I just need just clarity for myself. Is the Northern Bayfield lands? I know that we've heard, like when we first were listening to this, it was Oromadante, Springwater had all these issues, and then all of a sudden we hear nothing about Springwater. They haven't gone to their meeting, so I would agree with some of my colleagues as saying we need to hear from that municipality. But I think that those lands would bring money, and I know that they're saying that you can't, like as a province, can't go cross-bordering for the services, but also they do have that same right to expropriate that property, if I'm correct. So is there not also something that could be jeopardizing in those properties? I just only hear the one side all morning here today, but we're talking about waiting for 2 other municipalities to have their meetings. And I think it's only right that we hear something about that, or why, if we're going to make that decision. And I do fully believe that, to Councillor Dolan's point, that we need to listen to the municipalities also, and then make a group decision for the county. I agree with all of that, and I agree with the good work that the county has done, but I also have those questions that I started with to hear that are not clear at all for myself. Thank you.
And I wish I had answers for you, Councillor. I really do. Councillor Snell.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, I was going to say, similar to Councillor Anderson, and to split the vote. I would also add that not only to speak with to provide direction or recommendation that you reach out to the minister, but also the premier, and have a conversation about this as well in terms of some of the specific recommendations that we're asking to customize in the offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leduc.
Yes, thank you, Warden. Through you, I support option 3. I think we need to put something on the table for the minister to see. I would also include in the option 3 all of the wants that we want. So I talk about section 28. I talk about Ontario Reg 82, make sure the Development Act is there to include Barrie and Orillia, because that is a regional airport. They were one-time owners of that airport, and this is still a regional benefit. So I would make sure those cities are included. I'd also include the fact that the bridge interchange 127, County Road 11 should be included. I think if you have to put something on the floor. If you go to the facilitator and you say, hey, we can't make a decision, we don't want to make a decision. When he writes his final report, there's going to be nothing in that report for the minister to look at. At least if we have something in the report that shows where our position is, then at least there's something in that report that the minister can go back to you and talk to the ward and talk to the county and say, hey, what is it that's really required here? There's an opportunity for us to have some kind of conversation with the minister. If there's nothing in the report, and we know the facilitator is going to write a report, and whether the municipalities support or don't support doesn't really matter. That's their position. They can take their position. But we need to take a position. You can't sit here and say defer, and we're going to give him nothing because we've got some late reports. He's going to write a report, and it's going to come sooner than we think. So we need to put something on the floor that the county can support and make that happen so that at least the minister sees we want something. There is some wins already, as Councillor Miskin pointed out. So I think it's incumbent upon us to make a decision and not to sit and defer, because this is not what the provincial government likes. They like action. Let's make sure we put it in the report and we give the minister something to chew on. Otherwise, there'll be nothing for him to chew on, and he will sit there and say, this is the report from the facilitator. This is what he provided me, and this is the decision made. So my position is we go with option 3 with some add-ins to it.
Then we would want to copy the minister on our vote, because if it's given to the option 3 to the facilitators is no. And then that's all that will appear. So we would need to make sure we copied the minister on our request. Councillor Measures.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, members of council. You know, I have to say this has been a very good session so far, with very good respectful comments coming from all members. And I think that that actually speaks to one of the items I wanted to mention in my comments here, Your Worship. I want to back up, though, and say that Councillor Anderson's recommendation is very valid, to indicate that we should clearly give a direction either for or against, and then separate the motion. So I support Councillor Anderson's recommendations on that. I believe that this entire process has frankly been messy and dirty, and let's just say that there's been some personalities involved. And so I think that it's this time now for this council to sit down and make a decision by eliminating those type of personalities and reflecting on some of the bad processes that have gone on to get us to this point. Frankly, right up until 6 o'clock last night, when we received the report some 15 hours before we're sitting here. So there's a lot of process that got us here that I would say is just plain disappointing. However, I also think that it's our responsibility to make decisions that move our region and and to think regionally as elected members here,
And I think it's an opportunity for us to do it. So that's why I'm not supportive of the idea of deferring today, but I think we can continue to discuss this and come up with something that really works. I do want to highlight one small piece that's been discussed, and it's very important to me as a mayor of a small municipality that is, let's call it landlocked, because we're a beautiful agricultural community. The issue of cross-border servicing and a cross-border servicing agreement is critical. All across Simcoe County, we have municipalities that have, public infrastructure for servicing, water servicing, sewer servicing. They're available, but the possibility of expanding those and having the Ministry of Natural Resources support us, having massive growth in our rural communities because of our wastewater requirements going into small cold water streams, it's just not going to happen. Having access to the assets that are frankly owned by all Canadians are, Great Lakes waterways as well as Lake Simcoe. These, bodies of water are magnificent, and we can protect them by providing the best engineering possible to provide wastewater servicing through those services. So I think this whole discussion to me also speaks about how growth really happens. Growth happens because of water, wastewater, electricity, gas, telecommunications, and key to us at the county, transportation. We have to have great roads. So those growth pieces are all very important, but we know that the small municipalities will not be able to expand to the level that perhaps is looked at in 2061 if we don't have good cross-border servicing agreements for water and sewer provision to allow growth to happen. And so this is the part that has been of great interest to me as our community faces those things in the future. I must say, and perhaps you're not aware, but we have a wonderful agreement with our colleagues at Wasaga Beach for sewer capacity in our community, and it's a terrific agreement that took probably about 5 years to develop and was passed by former Mayor Ken Ferguson when I was on council. But it's a great example of how cross-border servicing really works. So in the case of Springwater Township and Ormadani, I believe that Ormadani, many years ago, had lands that they wanted to have servicing, and the city of Barrie was not prepared to provide them a servicing agreement. And here we are in Springwater. We have Springwater lands that the Barrie, I believe, is prepared to enter into an agreement to do some type of servicing. So at some point, we need to get the province of Ontario to acknowledge and recognize that cross-border servicing is a key issue here. And municipalities that are on these natural water courses cannot be held as gatekeepers to the access. So this is why I think this agreement is important. That's why I think this decision that comes from this House needs to be done respectfully and to the best that we can do to represent the future of this great region called Simcoe. And I think that we should be able to move this forward today if we continue this discussion. So to your worship, I would ask that we keep track of some of the challenges in the current recommendation, and perhaps we can get to amendments that make it satisfactory to bring it to the whole House. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Greenlaw.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. We find ourselves in this unfortunate quagmire today as a result of the attempts to shortcut and fast track a boundary adjustment or annexation, whatever you want to call it, to acquire more employment land that was not substantiated until the study was extended 10 years at the sole discretion of the facilitation lead consultant. The lack of transparency and adherence to the normal process and procedure with limited public engagement has made Barrie's request very difficult to navigate from the beginning throughout the facilitation process. Therefore, I agree with General Manager Elliott's suggestion to remove the Highway 400 employment lands that were added to stage 3 of the study after we were told we would not expand the scope of the study. Employment lands need to be dealt with in a separate mandate from the residential. This will allow time for the proper planning process to be completed, validating the areas of employment needs in a collective and responsible manner, ensuring sustainable economic growth for the entire regional marketing area. I do agree with some of my colleagues who said this is a fact-based facilitation, which is what we signed up for and agreed to participate in from day one. Unfortunately, the facts were changed to create a need that didn't exist. So what I think we need to do is get back to the facts. Oro Madani understands they will likely lose land, but we need to make sure that it aligns with what the consultants say, that that land is for residential and community uses only. Barrie has not been willing to write that into the agreement, and we will proceed as well with the Minister of Housing in order to ensure those securities are put in place. Thank you. I will be supporting option 3 in General Manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Warden. I'm hearing an appetite today with the deferral that it's to support Oro and Springwater in this motion. I have a question. Is it possible that we can make an amendment so we don't have this conversation every time we sit, that we vote in favor of option 3? However, it's contingent upon Springwater and Oro moving forward with positive votes in favor of such?
General Manager, not sure how you would do that.
That's a parlay that I hadn't really contemplated. And I would be concerned about outcomes at the local that might go in different directions. Split votes, other issues that might come up. So that would be concerning to me.
Supplementary, yeah.
Okay. The reason I'm asking again is because every time we come, we sit and we have this large discussion, we have this, in-depth discussion, and nothing moves forward. I want to show the province that we have an interest in wrapping this up and making sure that this is going in the right direction. As Councillor Duke said, if we come with nothing, we have no voice in the scenario. So if we can say as a county, we are willing to work and support members, of the council itself, the smaller communities, it shows more of a unified front, contingent upon them saying, yes, we like this. Yes, this is where we want to go. Like, we're showing them support without denying information to the province in the process. I'm not sure how that will play out, but I mean, it's something we need to do.
That puts us in that same situation. Like, we could, let's say we defer till next Tuesday. There's no guarantees Oro Madani is going to support it tonight. There's no guarantee that Springwater is going to point it tomorrow, and we're back here again. So I think we have to make our decision independent of it, which is unfortunate. It always puts us in that situation where you kind of want to wait till the local municipalities are done, but we don't have a guarantee when that'll be. And it's in front of us now. Yeah, and I understand information came late, so I can go either way. We could wait a week while we absorb all the information we have, but then we need to be committed to making a decision if we came back on the 10th. And remember, that's budget day as well, folks. So I guess I would put this one first, guaranteeing that, yes, the province, there will be a decision that day, or we, as Councillor Duke said, we make the decision today. General Manager said his input is not going to change. So it's a matter of, it becomes a political decision more than a planning decision, I guess, if we're going to go any way outside of what's being recommended by our planners. So I have Councillor Norcross, Coghlan, and Dolan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, just looking at the report, it says that Barrie is lacking shovel-ready sites. They have lots of employment lands, but lacking shovel-ready sites. I know a municipality in South Simcoe has got about 1,000 acres of shovel-ready sites, and that would be new to Tecumseth. We have Honda down there. We're ready to go, and we could start digging tomorrow. So my question is, if we allow or support, choose my words, the 400 lands, how will that affect New Tecumseth, Alliston, and Honda?
General Manager.
Sorry, General Manager, I don't mean to put you on the spotlight yet, but I'm going to ask that question because, we had a $15 billion announcement and we're looking for more.
Through the
Go ahead.
Your worship, through the chair, rather. That is the million-dollar question. We would hate to undermine not only what's in play right now, but the future as well. So in absence of really doing that regional look at things, economic development and employment growth is a fairly finite numbers game. So it's not really the position of build more and more will come. There's a pretty predictable amount of employment growth. Now you can entice that and do things, but we would hate to make a decision which benefits the separated city at the great expense of our community even today. Might not be a great answer to your question. We would not want to undermine the work that's been done today or the future work.
Sorry, Your Worship.
Yeah, supplementary, go ahead.
No, thank you. No, it is a great answer to the question. I thank you very much. So basically, we give away that employment lands. It could directly affect New Tecumseh, Alliston, Honda, South Simcoe, Simcoe County. Okay, thank you.
It's kind of why we wanted to finish the MCR process prior to making any decision on the employment land. We do know that North Simcoe has a deficiency to 2051. In fact, they might have a slight deficiency even today. And we were hoping the province would make the county whole prior to making the city of Barrie whole, or at the very least do us together so that we're all complete till 2051. But like I said, the information we've seen is make Barrie complete to 2061 and leave Simcoe County still in the deficit position that we're in today. And that's what's so concerning to the planning staff here. Take care of our deficit first, and then let's worry about the separated cities. Deputy Warden, you've been patiently waiting.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think just for clarification, the deadline that has been proposed by the province, what date is that?
Wasn't it last month?
The most recent, Your Worship.
I don't know.
November 7th.
Is it November 7th? Okay, thank you.
Also, when we speak about the agreements and whether there's support or not having support, can we also, clarity for the House, if all three parties are not in agreement, can we relay what the province has suggested?
They will make a decision based on what they've received. I don't know what the decision will be, but they'll make a decision based on the facilitator's report, understanding that there's no agreement.
Understand that there's no agreement. The other comments I have on option 3 is that where it speaks to that the lands will remain in Springwater and be serviced within Springwater. Our municipality had a similar motion not long ago. And the correspondence that we received from that then was the proprietors, Sadlin and Remington, would then like to go to the city of Barrie. Not just for servicing, but remain in the city of Barrie. I have grave concern with that. Those projects are a huge benefit to not only Springwater, but the county. And under no circumstances do I want to jeopardize an opportunity for cross-border servicing. So having that in there to me is jeopardizing our opportunity and a negotiation. And again, as Councillor Miskimen said, this is going to happen. This is going to happen by an agreement or by legislation. History is repeating itself again. We saw it in Innisfil, and we saw it 40 years ago when Vespera, we lost the Georgian Mall lands and got nothing. We are sitting here today about to make the same mistake. I'm not asking the House to make a decision when they're not comfortable with it. Information is not going to come forward. As we've learned that the facilitated process is over. Our opportunity for negotiating is over. I do believe that the warden speaking to the minister could have a benefit to the county, but our opportunity for suggesting we want this and we want that and we'd like this, but we don't like that, the facilitated process has ended. And now we need to make a very uncomfortable vote. But we do need to vote.
Thank you. Councillor Dolan.
Thank you. The deputy warden had approached one of the things I wanted to talk about, and that was why is that line in there, and why are we weighing in on that item? General, can I ask through you to the general manager?
Absolutely, Rob.
Certainly, and if I hadn't completely addressed that prior, my apologies. We know it's been an issue of much discussion at the local municipality. I guess at this point it remains unclear as to whether that will be serviced. We understood that there was discussions ongoing about the servicing abilities from within Springwater, so we just chose to let those discussions happen outside of our process.
Certainly would entertain an amendment to remove it.
Right.
If we go with option 3, I don't have an option on the table yet. So
Thank you. So I'm hearing my colleagues and compelling arguments, and I think that going based on Councillor Anderson's idea of splitting the motion, but also I don't think we should be weighing in on servicing issues since we are not a service provider, and we should just be silent on that. And I also think that we should, instead of talking about, and now I can't find the spot where it talks about for no compensation. Right. So I would prefer that, we still go with the do not put the 400 lands in the city of Barrie, leave them in the county of Simcoe. But if they insist on putting them in the city of Barrie, that the $5 million is paid without conditions, because I found the conditions quite subjective and ridiculous.
thank you. I would want to go one step farther and the transfer take place following the granting of the MZOs that we're requesting, because we've seen where our official plan can just stall and stall and stall. So, I mean, if they absolutely have to include that, then the 5 million has no conditions upon the transfer, but it is done after the MZOs are granted and we had 2 of them, Rob. One was, Craig Hurst, and the other one. We backed off on the airport because we got preliminary work to do at the airport still. We're already in negotiations with MTO over the interchange. That's kind of its own thing, but the Forbes Road is critical to us as number 1. And the reason we like Craig Hurst is there's a rail there as well. So it was kind of our number 2 ask, and that's kind of how we prioritize them. So I could certainly support that. If that land has to go, which we don't like, it should happen after we've been granted our employment zone and at least county has been made whole. And then if Barrie wants a piece of that land, so be it. But county needs to be granted that employment zone first, and then Barrie can have their section of it, not the other way around. It's not a Barrie employment zone and now county wants a piece. That cannot happen, or at least I don't feel it should happen that way. I did see another hand.
Councillor Smith.
Online. There it is. Sorry, Brian. Councillor Smith.
That's quite all right, Your Worship. Thank you very much. We can bat this around all day, all night, but I'm hearing some very interesting comments come from my friends here in the House. And my desk mate, I think, has said this best, Councillor Miskimins. I think it's vitally important, Warden, that you meet with the minister one-on-one as soon as possible. I have been saying for many years that when we're dealing with other levels of government, it's about relationships. And I don't see a relationship has been built between yourself and the minister at this point. And I think that that's vitally important. And I can tell you from experience that for Wasaga Beach, we've been able to build some pretty amazing relationships, and it helps a great deal. We have a deadline of November the 7th, and we can defer this and go past the deadline, but the deadline, as I'm hearing it, that's it. It's the final deadline. We're done. And at some point, you have to realize when you've done all you can. And when I look at this House, as much as I sympathize with our friends in Oro-Medonte and in Springwater, because I don't agree with this process. I do think it's greatly flawed, but it is what it is, and here we are today. And we're faced with the hard decisions we're faced with. Sitting in this House, I have a responsibility, as does everyone, to do what is best for the county. And best doesn't mean do or fight for what we want based on knowing that the fight is over. They've been very clear on this. Our job now is to get the best we can based on the situation at hand and what we know is going to happen. And that is either we work with the province to make the best deal we can and move forward, or we simply stop working with the province or do everything they've told us not to do any further, and we get nothing further. That would not be in the best interest of the County of Simcoe, in my opinion. The province is going to make this decision. You know, we talk about 2 MZOs versus 3 MZOs. They've said you get 2. Well, then let's decide which 2 are the most important to us and do that. And then again, I think we need to also go back to this residential lands now. And again, this is not a negotiation. It would simply be a request based on us moving forward and working with the province. Perhaps they would consider that, because that'll be significant dollars probably. We can continue to banter back and forth. We can continue to be reluctant to make a decision before our 2 partners, municipalities, make their decision. But their decision at this point is a moot point, in my opinion, because the province has been clear. Make a decision or we will. I think that we need to move forward, make a decision, do what is absolutely best at this point in time for the County of Simcoe, working within the parameters that we've been told we can work within, not what we think or believe should be the parameters we work within. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, but I will say on a personal note, I do have a very good relationship with Minister Flack. In fact, the last meeting I was in with him, it was him that had to speak up and say, okay, folks, we got to stop here. Baz and I can talk farming all day. We need to get down to business. So I do have that good relationship. Go ahead, follow up, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I meant no disrespect there. I was just going on what I was hearing today, and it sounded to me, because the question was asked, have you met? And I think the answer was no. So when you haven't met, that tells me the relationship probably isn't there. But having said that, then that's even better, Your Worship. I would strongly suggest that you make the call and say, you know, Minister, let's get together ASAP. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Do I have any other hands? Councillor Fryer, haven't heard from you yet. Go ahead.
Thank you, Warden, and excellent discussion today. I've been waiting to the end, and I'm just simply going to give some brief comment. I'm in support of making a decision today. It seems to me like the county was kind of dragged into it in the first place. And we've been hearing that every time we think we're going to set a date for making a decision, we get told to make it sooner. So I think the province is expecting the county to lead the way here. And it sounds to me like we have some workable wording to put into option 3 that I could be supportive of. So I just wanted to indicate my support to trying to finalize this today and looking at option 3 in some way, some form.
Chatting with my neighbor here, I think we have some good suggestions. What I'll do is take the rest of the questions, we'll take a break, and then we'll see if we can put something on the floor for council. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Warden. And yeah, I was going to just call for a vote or motion move forward, but I'll leave that up to you. First of all, it's an interesting discussion. Two-stage, I applaud Councillor Anderson's analysis of this. We haven't been talking about the city very much, have we? That's kind of been left in the back. And when I was doing some research last night, I was still looking at the original agreements and the offers and Mayor Nuttall's letter. And I think as a House, though, we should acknowledge that the City of Barrie has worked with us to a certain degree, and they're under their own pressures as well. It is a reality that their population is focused to go to, I believe, 370,000 people, and that's a reality that we have to deal with. But that being said, it is our responsibility as we sit in Simcoe County to look at our regional balance, to look at our long-term county interests, and to focus on 16 municipalities that we represent and separated cities for services. 16 municipalities. We're all in this together. And in this case, in this situation, it's the townships or Medonte and Springwater that are being affected. But reality is it's all of us. And I think that's an important point that we have to make sure that we recognize. When I look at, again, two parts for me. First of all, the initial agreement or the Barrie offer, I'm not overly favor of. I will say right now. I think it's structurally risky. I think there's a number of things. I'm not going to go into them. I know we've touched on them in planning integrity. With I think that the land ready supply, the fiscal part of it, environmental protection. There's been no concrete agreements or anything made to say that that land will be or what is going to happen with that land. And given what's happened with CAs this week, that's something moving forward. But I'm agree as far as deferring it. I'm not in favor of that. We sit here as representing the 16 municipalities. I realize that there's an element of voice from the two municipalities who are going to vote on this. But I feel comfortable representing Simcoe County to move forward with staff recommendation on option 3. I've changed my mind, frankly. I came in this morning and I was option 2. But I see option 3. At this point with the negotiations or the facilitator report being turned down, I don't agree with, we got to get something out of it or we'll get nothing. Be honest with you, I don't see how they could have treated us any worse. Right, we haven't been included, we haven't been involved. Warden Clark has done an amazing job. I know I've seen him, the angst and anxiety in his face and every time he talks about this, and he's been doing everything he possibly can to get involved with this process. Unfortunately, we have to be realistic, and we do have to go get the best deal we possibly can. And I feel that we move forward today with a recommendation. We have to show, in spite of it's like trying to box with a ghost or something. You can't negotiate with someone you can't see. And it seems like that's what as someone has said, one hand behind their back. But regardless, we are not responsible for them. We're responsible for us. And I see as a house that we should take the initiative as much as we can and put our position forward and go with a unified approach and push that and Gordon Clark pushed that to all levels of government and to make sure that our position is well known. We didn't dictate the terms of this engagement. It was dictated upon us, and that's fine. We're a lower tier, upper tier, we all understand that. But we can be responsible for how we react and how we move forward, not just in this situation, but the precedent that it sets for the future. And that's what I'm worried as well. Cross-border servicing is something that we're all going to have reality with, be it rural or urban. And I'm here to represent and preserve the character of Simcoe County for those 16 municipalities. And it's not the decision I want, but I think it's a positive and a proactive approach to ensuring that hopefully in the future, these are not as clouded and risky as they are right now. So thank you very much, Warden. Appreciate that.
Okay, if there's no more one more, and then what I'll do is take a break, and we're kind of going to try and draft a motion based on the discussion that we think gets us there. Councillor Bell.
Yeah, this is just going to be quick. I think if we're throwing in ideas about negotiation, I think the $5 million, that should be unfeathered. It should be our decision to do what we want with it, because the city of Barrie, if they have to decide on it or have a decision in it, it's all going to be for the city of Barrie, not for the county. So it should be our decision what we do with that $5 million.
Thank you. Take a break till 10:40. Is that enough time, Jonathan? We'll sit down. Is that every 10 minutes? Yeah. I'm sorry for the delay for anybody watching at home, but we took us a little longer to draft this up than we thought it would. So we do have a motion that we'd like to put up on the screen whenever you're ready, Jonathan.
By Councillor Dole.
It'll be moved by Councillor Dolan, and I'll look for a seconder. Let's get it up there first. I can speak on it generally. What we're saying is the county will approve the transfer of the residential land as agreed upon by the local municipalities because we don't want to offer something that is outside of that realm. And we still object to the 400 lands being turned over to the city of Barrie. However, if they are to be, then we want our MZOs in place prior to the transfer of the land to the city of Barrie, and we want the $5 million unconditionally. And then I think where there's some requests at the airport as well added to that, but we'll get it up.
Okay, thank you, Warden. It was mentioned that this motion would be moved by Councillor Dolan and it had been provided, but as I'll go ahead and read it. I want to make sure that Councillor Dolan's okay with the wording. And if there are any changes before it formally gets put on the floor and the chair asks for a seconder. It's that the County of Simcoe supports its continued partnership with the province in building more homes and investing in the regional economy, and that the County of Simcoe respects its partnership with the City of Barrie in delivering services to our collective residents and businesses with a desire of maintaining opportunities for collaboration that foster mutual growth and prosperity, and that the County of Simcoe conditionally supports a boundary adjustment by the City of Barrie for community area lands as outlined in Schedule 3, which removes the Highway 411 employment lands and provides for an area of community lands that satisfies housing needs to 2051. And that is further noted that the support for a boundary adjustment is contingent on the county receiving 2 ministers' zoning orders, MZOs, for employment lands in the Highway 400 and Forbes Road and Craighurst areas, and that if the province approves the annexation of Highway 411 employment lands to the separated city, the County of Simcoe be provided $5 million by the city without conditions, and the 2 MZOs referenced above be issued prior to the lands being transferred, and that the province provide financial support for highway and airport infrastructure as outlined in the report. And that council requests the opportunity to finalize its negotiations on this matter through Warden Clark with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and that the City of Barrie, Township of Oro-Medonte, Township of Springwater, the Office of the Provincial Land and Development Facilitator, and the Honorable Rob Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, be advised of County Council's decision. So I'd look to you, Mr. Chair, to perhaps look to the mover and staff to make sure this sort of.
I will. The Schedule 3 map, I don't know if it's 100% in line with what the facilitators had, but again, from a county perspective, we never were challenging the housing property. So I don't know if we need to clean that up. But Lynn, what's your feeling on them?
I just had one question of clarification. So the lands that Barrie wants, isn't that also the 400 and Forbes Road area? Like, is it is the MZO, one of the MZOs that we're asking for, the same lands that the City of Barrie is asking to annex for employment?
No, because we want north of Partridge Road and they want south.
All right, then I'm satisfied with the motion. Thank you.
I'm just wondering about the Schedule 3 because I'm not, again, I don't have the latest of the latest map. It all got modified when we were sitting in the room together. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Your Worship. The map of Schedule 3 is not consistent with the map that is provided in the framework agreement. And what our lower tier municipalities are voting on would then be different than the map that we are seeing today. Having the mapping be consistent with the framework agreement, which is what our 2 councils would be voting on.
On the community lands be similar to the map that maybe just worded that way that the lower municipalities are voting on. community lands because they've told us that all the environmentally sensitive lands have been removed from the process. So I don't have that updated map in front of me, unfortunately. I hope the local councilors do because they've said, at least they've told us, the community lands are being removed from they're not the community lands, the sensitive lands are being removed. But I don't think you've seen that yet either, have you? So very, very confusing process.
Just outlined in, what was the wording?
As outlined in, what did you have, Deputy Warden?
The terminology that's been used is the framework agreement.
Yeah. And then it'll basically whatever the lower tiers agree upon on when it comes to the commercial land and residential land, we are in agreement with. Lots of hands, and I'd look for a seconder prior to going any further. Seconder by Councillor Miskimen. So it is now on the floor. I'll start McDonald, Cabral, Greenlaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just when they were speaking about the adjustment by the City of Barrie for community area lands as outlined in agreements with the Highway 400/11, and it was mentioned, and I didn't quite get south or north. Could it not be put whatever that you're giving them? Because that was, you said, oh no, we want this and they want that. So should it not be clear?
South Partridge Road. You want to put that in just to define, they know the area, but it doesn't hurt to put it in there.
Through you, Your Worship, I think those lands have already been identified on their proposals. I mean, if you wanted abundance of clarity, you could add up to Partridge Road. But I think that there's a fair bit of clarity on which lands we're talking about.
Yep. We're all well aware of the lands.
Respectfully, I'm just seeing this and I did not, because that was a question that came onto the floor. So that's all I'm asking. If it needs to be as clear as possible for anybody reading it, then I would ask that it would be exactly what we're asking for.
South of, yeah, if the land conveyed 411 south of Partridge Road, employment lands to be the separated city. So just annexation of Highway 411 south of Partridge Road.
Seconder, okay with that?
You're okay, mover and seconder are okay with it, yes. So I also had Councillor Corbell, Councillor Greenlaw.
Thank you, Warden. Just with respect to some of the changes, they've been fairly substantial from what staff had originally recommended. And with the changes that have been put in place there, if this is the county's position, then it should be the Schedule 3 map that was originally presented. So that's the one that I would be prepared to support. And the reason I say that is because that is a map that was provided by the county based on their assessment and their analysis as far as what they were prepared to kind of put forward. I think going with the map that is in the framework agreement, that would be something for Springwater Township and Oromadonte to make a decision on their own. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Good points. I'll go around the table first. Councillor Greenlaw.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'm just trying to see whether or not there's any way of putting in here the protections that we're looking for within the Oromadonte lands that are to be used strictly for community and residential development. We do feel at high risk of them flipping that. And so whether the county can ask that it's legislated within the province that those lands stay strictly for that for a term of 35 years, because if they haven't developed them within 35 years, then that questions whether or not they ever needed the land. But I would like that. And I think we need to have clarity on, is environmental areas out or are they in? Because the original request was in the compensation to the lower tiers are on developable land. So to me, I think it would be very advantageous to keep the environmental lands in Oromadonte because it prevents sterilization of further land a kilometer easterly from being held from us being able to develop. So I think those would be some benefits that, and I don't want to complex this. I don't know where this is. I know we will address it as well tonight at our council meeting, but those were the two things that I wanted to see if there was a way of us getting some sort of support from the county for the protection of the lands if annexed or taken on by Barrie, that we are protected, that they are only used for commercial residential use. Thank you.
Rob, what's your feeling on that? I mean, if they're taking the 400 lands, then they certainly have no need for any other employment lands because that's a 300 hectare parcel on its own. So what's your feeling on that?
Through you, your worship, we can understand some of those concerns. I think we put language in the body of the report that talked about bringing lands on board through proper Planning Act processes, meaning you'd go through what used to be known as a municipal comprehensive review under the growth plan. Those days are gone, but we've made language in there that suggests that the city would have to go through a proper OPA process under the Planning Act to allocate particular land uses. Hempson has identified the lands in Oro as not being suitable for industrial uses. I don't know how much agreement we might get from the province with some kind of a surety in the body of our motion here, but I think having said that they do require them to go through proper planning processes is some solid parameters around that.
I think why the province is reluctant to put that in because planning rules change constantly at the provincial level, so they're not going to tie their hands if they change the policies that are in place today. And the policies today would say no, but they're always subject to the province changing them. Did you do a supplementary on that, Randy? And
yeah, it's just so therefore, if you could just bring clarity. So what would prevent the city of Barrie for applying for an economic development zone and changing all those lands to an economic development area?
Rob?
I guess an answer which might not be what you're looking for is that, that due process would have to be followed. It would result in public input, adherence to Planning Act and planning practices. I guess the simple answer is I don't see a way in which we would lock for decades how those lands might be used. That does seem to be a challenge that we wrestle with.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Councillor Cox.
Further to what Councillor Greenlaw said, is there not a way that maybe we could do a separate motion? This is what I'm talking about. This is supporting a member municipality. And I think that as a group, we should work together and support each other. So I don't know if it would go into the paragraph that the County of Simcoe employment and provides area community lands that satisfy the housing needs and something, or we do a separate one. But I really believe that if a municipality in our county asks for our support, we should come up with something, even if it's separate. Thank you.
Possibly a follow-up motion to that effect. I did, Councillor Lavoie. Sorry, Peter.
No worries. Thank you very much. I just wanted to point out that in his note to us, Mayor Nuttall indicated a 5-year moratorium on developing those lands should they become granted to Barrie. We might want to include that in the motion since it was their offer.
Their offer was because we didn't have the MZOs in place yet, and that was the idea that it would give us time to pursue the MZOs. The concern we have is 3.5 years trying to get an official plan passed. We didn't have confidence that even the MZOs would be in place in 5 years. What we're saying now is put the MZOs in place first. We wouldn't need the 5-year abatements then because we would be up and running. Follow up, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, and I think the township would be agreeable to coming back to the county on November 10th for support on whatever it passes today. So just so that there's not a lot of debate over that matter, I offer that. Thank you.
And I wish we did have the update because the map did change the last time, or at least I was assured it had taken the environmental lands out, but I've asked for it. I asked for it after the meeting, which was the 22nd of October, I think was the meeting. Still haven't received it. I asked for it yesterday. I asked for it the day before, hoping to get the updated map that, because we've been told the environmental lands are out, but I haven't received it. But we still want to be in alignment with our lower tier municipalities. And again, we have no objection to the housing land changing hands and never have. It was always the employment lands that were an issue to us. Alternate Councillor Saunders.
Good morning, Your Worship. I just wonder if an amendment could be made to the bottom of the motion to add something along the lines that a moratorium be placed on any further boundary adjustments by the city of Barrie for a period of years going forward. The initial report that we saw on the floor here, I think it was indicated that they had enough growth until 2061. We're hearing today that number has changed, but I know in my work experience, moratoriums have been put in place where 15 years, 20 years were granted. So I just wonder if that would be appropriate to discuss.
What's your feeling on that, General Manager? Because the province is trying to build houses. So if all of a sudden Barrie hits those numbers, though, I can't see it. I mean, they're pretty grandiose numbers. I don't think the province wants to be in a situation where they can't expand a city that's grown well beyond their limit. So that would be my, I mean, I'd love to have the moratorium to 2051 as well, because this makes them complete, you know, stick to your official plan. That's smart growth. What's your feeling, Rob?
Thank you, through your worship. I would feel that sentiment, and I would understand why that request would seem like the right thing to do, and I would love to have that in place. We've asked that of the facilitator of the province, and their response was that they would not agree to that because they wouldn't want to bind future councils or provincial government mandates. So I think asking for it, I could tell you right now the response would probably be less than favorable as the position from the province on that.
Okay, we just had to pull it down so we can see Brian online or any other. If is everybody comfortable? Again, our issue never was with the the residential lands, so we will try and be aligned with our lower tier when it's handed back to them. Councillor Measures, Councillor Gravel.
Thank you very much. I think Councillor Gravel did have his hand up prior to me. If you want to go to him first, then come back.
Go ahead, Cabral.
Thank you, Warden, and thank you, Chair Measures. Just with respect to the community lands is the piece there where Schedule 3 shows lands that in the report says that should be able to accommodate the residential needs for the city of Barrie. The framework agreement, the mapping that I last saw includes industrial lands. So I'm really struggling with why we would make a change to the motion based on one member's comments and not recognize that there was a flip side to that coin where the residential and community land needs have been met by the Schedule 3 map. Why we would be adding additional lands where in the last mapping that I saw included some industrial lands. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't know whether or not that we could go back and maybe make that part of the motion, or maybe even put up the Schedule 3 map so that members of council can see what we're talking about.
I'll go to Councillor Measures while we try and get that on the screen. Councillor Measures.
All right. Thank you very much, Your Worship. I don't want to muddy the waters, but I do want to go back to the $5 million ask from the city of Barrie. I believe there's a letter from Mayor Nuttall that outlined it would be the intent of the city of Barrie to enter into that agreement based on economic development, growth, and economic activities. And so they were, I believe the letter indicated he was agreeable as a council to support making that offer to the county. But I believe if we put in there that it is you know, an unfettered use, I think that would be incorrect in the fact that the purpose would be to support our economic growth, particularly around the airport lands and all other activities we do across the county. So I think that we should indicate that, you know, earmarked for economic development and economic growth. I think that's a fair add to that. Does anybody else recall Mayor Nuttall's letter on that? I just reviewed the one that was on the agenda, and I don't think it's in that one specifically, but certainly I know that. Your Worship.
Do we have an General Manager? Go ahead.
Through your worship, I don't think there'd be any objection at the staff level about those funds being applied towards some kind of economic growth or development activity within the county. I think our concern was more along the lines of the ability for the city of Barrie to decide what that might be. So, you know, I would be understanding of allocating those funds for economic development purposes.
Yeah, I don't think we need it in the motion. We just want no strings attached when the check is written.
Your Worship, just to follow up, I agree with you. I think that I would, you know, offer respect to both Oromadani, Springwater, this House, and the City of Barrie's Council, because they made that offer. So I think that if we had something in there that indicated it's for economic growth or economic development and growth opportunities, that's my thought on it. But I understand. It could stand as it is right now. It could. I just think that needed to be said. Thank you.
Yeah. I would always condition, you know, if I sold my farm and the guy said, yeah, I'll pay this much money, but you can only use the money for this. I think my answer would be the same. It's my money now. I'll use it how I see fit. Councillor Dolan, did you have your hand up? Yes.
I did actually. It was in response to Councillor Cabral, is that I think the idea of using the latest mapping was that everybody's voting on the same thing. So my understanding, unless I'm wrong, is that Ormadante and Springwater are going to be voting on the, what's the wording that we used in here? The framework agreement mapping. So for us to be supporting something different than that, I think sends a mixed message.
Now, should the local councils go in a different direction, then we would fall in line when it came to the residential, the same as what the local councils have agreed to, if it's agreed to by all parties, right? Councillor Corbell, follow.
Thank you. Just a quick response. And I certainly do appreciate that, Chair Dolan, and I understand exactly kind of where you're coming from. Council as a whole did not create that mapping. It was brought to us. So that's one thing that I think we need to take into consideration. The second piece is that council as a whole, this particular house, is concerned about the employment lands, which may or may not actually be a consideration for the township itself at their meeting. So we are actually, as a council here, as a whole, looking at it through a different lens. So I'm just saying that, you know, as far as keeping county councils territorial integrity more whole, then that's why I was suggesting that Schedule 3 would be a better map to go by for the county's perspective, because that mapping was created by the county and addresses the concerns in the report for the community housing. So in essence, what we're doing is we're going outside of what the county's recommendation was to include a map that nobody else has voted on either. So just leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that, but this map was presented to the facilitators and they presented the map back. And again, so we are where we are now. They're saying this is the map that you're voting on. So again, I wish I had the newest one, but it does go north of Sunnydale Road and it does go all the way down to across from Napoleon in the Ormadani lands as well. So, but apparently does not have the environmental lands around a little lake. So, and that was the map that was presented to us. Councillor Miskmans was there with me and Director Elliott and Nathan, and that was the map. Unfortunately, didn't get a copy to bring to us. I've asked for it. Deputy Warden.
Thank you. The map that will be that Springwater Township and Oromodonte will be voting on as part of the framework agreement is on page 79 of 118 or 21 of the 59-page agreement.
Okay. Schedule 4.
On our agenda today, sir.
Page 118, I think. 59. What was your page? Sorry. I got 59, like 59, 58, somewhere in there.
Of the 118 pages, it's on page 79.
I only got 59 pages. I only have 59 pages. 21, okay. 21. All right, I got it. I'm finding it here now. Oh, perfect. That's odd because the map that was presented to us did not have the land around Little Lake. It was removed because they said at this time they're removing all the environmental sensitive land. So that's why I don't have a constant direction coming out of the facilitators, but I've been assured by the minister that the environmentally sensitive land is being removed from the land transfer at this time. So I don't know what else to say. I've been told one thing, the map going around is another. It was the minister himself that said they weren't going to transfer any of the sensitive land at this time. However, there is a piece they have to make a link, like as they go up through Ormadani to get all the way to the highway. There is a small piece that has to transfer hand, but there was nothing on the east or west side of Little Lake. Councillor Anderson, and then I thought I saw another one.
Thank you, Your Worship. the water is certainly muddy. And I have a concern, and I'll be blunt with this, and my apologies for the bluntness, but from my perspective, there is a facilitated process and the county is struck out. And now we're sitting here trying to figure out what we can petition the province for. I have not heard any information as to whether or not, like, if we're going to support this adjustment from Barrie, the recommendation is that Barrie's proposed a framework agreement by a facilitator, and we either support it or we don't support it. And from the comments that I've heard around the House this afternoon or this morning, is we don't support it because we're adding 10 more conditions to it. So if we don't support it, let's say we don't support it, move on. Because I don't think adding to the province's wish list of what we want to do is giving us any clear indication of whether or not we support a boundary adjustment by the city of Barrie. I have not heard that clearly as to we support it, but by the way, we don't like 15 things with it. Well, if we had the opportunity during the facilitation process to go through these, and clearly we struck out, what's going to change in the next round with the province? So as far as I'm concerned, I can't support the resolution or the proposed motion on the table. You know, quite frankly, I look at options 1 and 2 in the report and say we pick one of those and move on, because there's a lot of unanswered questions. Both Springwater and Norma Dante have to vote on this. From what I understand, they may put conditions on this. Well, if you put a condition back on an ask of yes or no, that's not a yes or no anymore. You're asking a condition for something. So are we going to withdraw our support if we don't have a yes to our conditions? Because I don't think the province is going to look favorably to that either. They're going to look for us to say, do you support it or do you not support this boundary adjustment from the city of Barrie? Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I guess what I can clarify is we've always supported the transference of the residential land, and we haven't had any issue with it from day one. So we're saying that in the motion. We have no issue with the transference of the housing lands. And again, we've had an issue with the other. We're saying we will support the transfer of the land, but we want our conditions met first, not after the fact. And I think that's a fair ask when you're going, we want the MZOs that we've been promised that, yes, you agree to this, and then you can go through a separate MZO process and you'll get the white glove treatment. And we're saying, no, we want the MZOs first because that makes us whole to 2051. So then go ahead and make the separated city. It's all about the fact that we want to be made whole. The fact that we have a shortage of employment zones today, let's fix that. And then, yes, we can support giving more employment lands to the city of Barrie after we're made whole. And I think that's a fair ask. And I think it's a fair thing to put that we do agree, but we need to be made whole, and we need to be made whole first. And I don't think that's overreaching, but comments. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So a question to the staff then. The facilitator asked us to vote on this? And what are we voting on then? The framework agreement?
Actually, the minister asked us to vote.
Okay, so I guess if we boil this down to what were we asked to vote on and make a decision on? What was proposed in front of us as a county council to vote on?
Yes.
If we are not happy with that, then we vote no. I'm sorry, but we either or defer it then again, because at the end of the day, if we're not happy with the process being followed, which is clearly what I've heard, and we're not happy with the outcomes, or we're happy with 75% of the agreement, then again, I'm missing something here, because if we're simply giving our support and asking the province for more, what if we don't get the more? So if we boil this right down to it again, we are simply giving our support to Barrie for a boundary adjustment and nothing more. So we're asking the province for something, but if we don't get it, are we going to come back here next week and say, okay, never mind, we're going to withdraw our support because we can't support this going forward?
I guess our terms were always in the ask, and they were presented to the province, and they have said that, yes, you can have your MZOs through a different process, what our concern is. No, they were always our ask. It's part of the agreement. It was agreed upon. Barry's letter said they support that employment zone and the one. So everybody's in support of it. We're saying we want it first. That's our assurance. That's the only stipulation we're really putting in this agreement is we want the MZOs. We don't want the 5-year abatements. Put the MZOs in place prior to the transfer of the employment lands. And that's a fair ask. And it is our ask. And from what I understand, it was agreed upon. So we're just strengthening that we want to be assured because we've seen the delays that happens with our official plans. And by no fault of the minister, that's just how planning exercises are. So there isn't a critical need for this land to change hands in the next 2-3 months, or even quite frankly, in the next 10 years. But we do have the shortfall of industrial lands, and that's why we're asking for those MZOs to be put in place prior to the transfer. I'll say it again, I believe it's a fair ask, and it is in the spirit of the agreement because it's been our request from day one. I've got Councillor Corbell, and I thought I had another hand.
Well, thank you, Warden. Just on that, if this particular motion fails, does it still provide County Council an opportunity to entertain a deferral or entertain a vote, as Councillor Anderson has suggested, on the yay or nay to the proposal?
Yes, I got a yes from the clerk.
Thank you. I just wanted clarity on that. It makes it a little easier, I think, for members of council to determine which way they'd like to proceed when they know that there's another option besides this one.
Thank you. Councillor Lavoie, sorry.
No worries. Yes, thank you. Just with respect to the matter of proceeding to the province, it's only the two municipalities, lower tier municipalities, who have proposals before them per se. And certainly I agree with the notion that notwithstanding any of the other matters that have been put forward here today, that the county should reserve its right to make application to the province on the basis of what we might call an issues list or something similar in going to the OLT. We're really just pleading at the end of the day our position to the minister with regard as to what we believe is in the best interests of the county. And so that's how I see this matter, and that's how I think it should proceed and how the House should vote. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm seeing no further hands. So I have a motion on the floor moved. My seconder was Councillor Miskimins. All in favor of the motion on the floor, or on, well, that we had? All opposed? We have 3 opposed. Thank you very much. That motion is carried. So now I will just look for my agenda here. Is there something, closed session I have none? Confirmatory bylaw, Councillor Norcross.
Thank you, Worship, through you. It's my pleasure to move this, that bill number 7150-25 be enacted as a bylaw of the County of Simcoe. Thank you.
Everybody's heard it all. Do I have a seconder? Yes. Seconder, Councillor Norris.
Second by Councillor Burkett. I don't want to break the streak. Thanks.
Thank you. All in favor? That is carried. And listen, I'll do the adjournment. I want to thank council for clearing your schedule. I mean, this was a last minute meeting. We scrambled to get everything in front of you as quick as we can. Thank you for coming and being able to clear the day. So I'll look for a motion that the November 4th, 2025 proposed municipal boundary adjustment special council meeting be adjourned at 11:20. Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor McDonald. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Enjoy your day, everyone.